Good morning and welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Niraj Shah. The trade might actually be a lot more stock specific today as opposed to index specific. We are likely to start off lower because the world markets are looking wobbly. Keep in mind, in terms of cues though, on the global front, the only thing that we're watching out for in the penultimate week to the US elections is the Eurozone calendar. I think it gets relatively busy there towards the end of this week, simply because as I read out, the European Central Bank will set policy on Thursday. That is, there is a slew of GDP data that comes out. And while we don't look at Europe as much, because Europe is facing this risk of double dip, if they set some policy moves and tones, it could actually just have that feeling of the coordinated central bank action. So watch out for that. In terms of stock markets, what the Dow did yesterday and the Dow futures are doing right now are pointing towards some bit of a downtick. So Nasdaq was in the green, all right, but Dow and the S&P fell in trade yesterday, which is why you have Nasdaq showing the blue and the green. The blue line is showing that green number at the top. But if you look at Dow and S&P, they'd all both come off. And as we speak, the Dow futures are pointing towards a 100-point downtick. So the world markets are not looking all that positive. Nothing of an upheaval of sorts, but they're not looking positive. As a result of which, you're seeing Asia starting off on a slightly weak footing, if you will, mixed reactions, some not so weak, some pretty weak, but by and large, Asia is looking wobbly. 0.5% down for HSI, Kospi's look weak, ASX, Straits Times, almost all of them have started off on a weak footing. And the SGX Nifty 2 indicates a start, which is roughly about 0.25% in the red the last time I saw, about 20-25 odd points. So like I said, nothing dramatic on the SGX Nifty front either, but you'll have a start which is looking slightly weak. So US, Dow Futures, Asia, SGX, all of them indicating a start which is going to be weak. Now, in light of this, therefore, viewers, what should the trade setup of the day today be? How should one approach trade today or for the near term? Now, for the near term, all of us know would be dependent on what the big policy, what the big election day and the verdict thereof does for the US markets. And we'll, of course, keep you updated with a whole host of articles as well as interviews right here on BloombergQuint to try and make you understand how to navigate through this US election uncertainty. But the trade setup today, I think 17,000 is now the sheet anchor for the Indian markets. Yeah, the reason I say this because Monday we had steep losses. Tuesday we started off okay, but then we recovered very, very smartly from this 11,700 levels, and therefore 11,700 becomes the sheet anchor for our markets. The banking stocks have seen buying action, and I'm not just referring to Kotak Bank. FIs pumped in over $500 million worth of money in trade yesterday. A lot of it went to banks. Kotak Bank, for example, had buying interest of nearly 1,400 crores in the spot market on the NSE alone. BSE, NSE combined, it would have been even higher. So you know that there is interest in the banking and the BFSI space. But I think autos and auto ancillaries could likely see strong traction. And I have reasons for that. I'll tell you why in a bit. But I think autos and auto ancillaries should see some strong traction. Aside of that, lots of earnings today, lots of very important earnings today, not just on the large cap space, but on the mid cap space as well. And remember, I've cut down this list, but just look at the set of earnings that are slated to be released today. There is Axis, yes, Reddy's, and I think it sets the tone for pharma. We haven't seen big ticket pharma come out with numbers thus far. So this will be important to understand as to how after the bump up in the first quarter has the second quarter been as strong. Hero MotoCorp, especially in light of the weakness that the two-wheeler stocks have seen in the last few days, would become important. L&T by virtue of the order flow guidance that they give, and Titan to see if the festive season demand continues. Their updates were okay. The question is, can their commentary be rock solid? But like I said, it's not just the index. I think today, the broader end of the spectrum has some very important numbers. And I'll tell you why. Just spend a minute here. APL Apollo amongst the leaders in the structural steel structures segment. And if their demand is looking strong, it gives an indication of how construction real estate demand is. ICICI Securities, after Angel Broking's fantastic numbers, can ISEC follow suit? That's the key question. Naveen Florin, the first of the big specialty chemical numbers slated to come out and becomes very important, as is PI Industries, right? Everybody talks about how the export demand for PI and some of the others will look strong. So it'll be important. Root Mobile had a fantastic listing and therefore good for it to live up to it. And Thyrocare would be important to give a sense of whether the diagnostic companies would do well. It will have a bearing, Thyrocare, on what Metropolis or what the Dr. Lal Path Labs do as well. So very important numbers slated to come out from the broader end of the spectrum today. What about the key stocks to monitor on open today, though? I think the stock of the day has to be Tata Motors. And the results, let me just quickly enumerate them for people who didn't quite know. Revenues at 5353 crores, the estimates were 48,300 crores. Margins versus an estimate of 8%, 10.6%. And net loss, much better, just at 314 crores. And I use the term just because the expectations were that the net loss would be 1970 crores. So they've done really well on all fronts. The key is the commentary from the management. Look at what the CFO, PV Balaji, said. He's saying that they are blown away with the October demand on Navratri sales. They have a highest ever booking, highest ever demand, don't have enough production to meet the demand. And with the current demand scenario, would love to have more hours in a day to produce. Can you imagine a company saying this? This is very strong commentary, and which is why I was saying that I think that auto ancillaries could be in focus too, because some of the auto ancillary, I mean, if Tata Motors is saying this, and if Maruti, for example, gives an encore, then you know that the two big giants are doing well, and therefore the suppliers too could be doing well. So keep that in mind, viewers. The ADR of Tata Motors was a bit of a giveaway. It was doing very well in trade yesterday, I think 4-5% uptick. And therefore, that probably points towards how the stock could start off this morning as well. 3-4-5% should be on the table. The question is, can it do more? Remains to be seen. But watch out for this one. The other big positive to my mind was Airtel. It posted a very strong operational quarter, despite the fact that there was a net loss. Operating margins at 46% versus 43.5% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. The India wireless business revenues and EBITDA grew by about 7.4% and 12.8% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. And ARPU at 162 was the highest in over 3 years. So for a stock that's been hit very badly, this should serve as a bit of an ammo. Can it last? I don't know, viewers. I mean, I still think Airtel needs to spin up a tail, but that notwithstanding, these numbers are good, and that should aid the stock. The recent underperformance should get corrected a bit, so I wouldn't be surprised if Airtel too starts off higher. ICICI Bank, a sentiment positive, if you will. The United States SEC late last evening said that they have concluded their investigation into the bank's loan impairment provisions under the US GAAP, and SEC does not intend to take any enforcement action against the bank. So this should be mild positive for ICICI Bank. So watch out for this one. Watch out for 3 key stocks yesterday, viewers. I mean, I just bring these up because these are so much in news yesterday that one shouldn't lose sight of them. Kotak Bank, Adani Green, Muthoot Finance. All of them had big upticks on that MSCI news. It may not be a one-day wonder, though. I think Kotak Bank, the buying was just so much. 1,400 crores or 1,460 crores, and as I said, on the NSE alone in the cash market. So maybe a lot of buying has happened already, but Adani Green was on an upper circuit, could do well. Muthoot Finance, 7.5%. Let's wait and watch if that does more. Don't lose sight of these stocks. And I think most brokerages are saying that Castrol numbers was such a good beat compared to what the estimates were, that you should look out for Castrol as well as Amara Raja too. Castrol had a beat on almost all the fronts. EBITDA, PAT, revenues. So watch out for Castrol and watch out for Amara Raja. Most brokerages have said that the numbers are very, very healthy. So those are the other 2 mid-cap names that I would watch out for. But all in all, very, very stock specific today as opposed to index specific. Have a profitable day ahead.